I have a problem. I spend way too much time doom scrolling, and you might have this issue too because social media companies make their platforms so addicting. But I would rather fill my life with creativity. In this video I will show you different creative activities you can do instead of doom scrolling, and I really hope that this video inspires you to do some creative activities and to get off your phone, and at the same time I really hope that this inspires me too. This is a sewing channel. Of course I was going to recommend sewing, but more specifically upcycling. It is a great way for beginners to get into sewing because the projects can be super simple and cheap as well. You can just go to the thrift store and get something and alter it just a bit. For example, this shirt was given to my girlfriend by few of our friends. It was their old shirt that they did not wear anymore, and my girlfriend wanted the shirt to be a lot shorter, and she also wanted it to have a chest pocket, and I did those changes for her for this shirt. And these would be very simple changes you could also do even by hand sewing. If you don't have a sewing machine, you could just buy a shirt from the thrift store and do this. It's very easy, but because I'm extra, I wanted to add some embroidery to this. I don't like to do boring projects, so I added a cute cat embroidery to the chest pocket because I was already making a pocket, why not make it cute? So I added the cat. This is how I constructed this pocket. It has the front-facing fabric, then it has interlining on the inside, and it has this cotton lining on the inside as well. And so all the embroidery and the interfacing is encased inside of this lining. I attached the pocket to the shirt with my sewing machine, and after that I added a border of brown embroidery thread around the pocket. And this is how the shirt turned out. I ended up adding a border of brown embroidery thread, and it has the cat embroidery, and it is fully lined. It still has some of the fabric pencil left, but it will come out in the wash, so don't worry about that. But yeah, and I also hemmed the bottom. Quite an easy upcycle. One of my favorite, and definitely my friends and family's favorite hobby of mine, is baking. One of my favorite things to bake at the moment has been focaccia bread. I have been baking these for almost a year now. I am completely obsessed with it, and my friends and family, they get to reap the benefits of my obsession of baking focaccia. But if you have ever wanted to try to bake something, even if it sounds challenging or is challenging, please try it. You can try to improve with your techniques. I have been baking focaccia a lot, and I have definitely gotten better at it, and I have tweaked the recipe that I originally used for this, and I have learned some new techniques. But to me this is extremely therapeutic. I am creating stuff, I can eat the stuff I'm making, and my friends and family can also eat the stuff I'm making. So it has been one of my favorite hobbies. I will link the recipe I'm using down in the description box, but I have tweaked the recipe a bit for myself. Since I have been doing this a lot, I have found ways that I can make it the way I like, but I recommend you starting with the recipe I'm linking down in the description box. It's a same day focaccia recipe. Here I am baking a very basic focaccia. It has no special toppings to it, so I'm using a lot of olive oil to give it some flavor. Usually I like to add toppings such as pesto or garlic or butter or something like that, or herbs like parsley or even cheese and jalapenos. But here the flavors are olive oil and sea salt. I have these frames I bought from the thrift store, and I want to create a gallery wall with them. I already created one piece of art, My cat passed away yesterday and I did a little memorial drawing for him. He was 14 years old and that really inspired me to continue with this project. I really want to get this gallery wall done so that I can hang up Velmo. For this frame, I think I want to use this fabric I thrifted as well and a Polaroid of me and my girlfriend. I really want to hang it on the wall and I think I will also paint this frame as well. This frame was €2, so not very expensive. I cut out some cardboard and on top of it I folded out my fabric. I used some masking tape to keep it in place and I also taped the picture onto the fabric. I think I want to paint these frames to this color. I feel like it would look nice if it continued kind of the color. I was also thinking of this creamy color, but I think that this burgundy one could look really nice. So I will try to color match that, but let's see. I sanded the frame with some sandpaper and then I tried to color match as best as I could and the end result was quite a good color match in my opinion. I painted 2 coats of paint for this frame. And here is the final result. Very happy with the outcome. For one of the other frames I wanted to create something 3D and I decided to use polymer clay for this. I created a sitting cat on top of the frame and I also created some flowers. I did also paint this frame. For some people, painting wood type of surfaces is an actual crime, but I think this is fake wood, so don't worry. I painted some flowers on the actual glass of the frame. I used a really teeny tiny nail brush for this step. I hot glued all the polymer clay pieces onto the frame. And as a last step I added a coat of pearlescent paint that added a nice purple sheen to the piece, but it's not really showing up on camera unfortunately. I wasn't able to finish the third frame for this video, but here are the 2 frames on top of our dresser and I'm very happy with them. Have you ever thought that gaming can be creative as well? It can, depending on the game. For example, The Sims. I find it a very highly creative game. When you're creating characters or your Sims, you can be so creative with the things you do. You can download custom content and create them anywhere you want. I also find decorating houses and apartments in Sim to be really creative. Here is a clip of me renovating a Sims 4 apartment from the City Living pack. If you want to play The Sims for free, actually the base game is completely free at the moment, which is really nice. So if you want to play Sims for free, you can, but I would highly recommend downloading some custom content. A lot of the items I'm using here is purely custom content. It is a nice way for you to play The Sims, but for free, because the base game items, they really suck. I will link my favorite custom content creator down below. They have really awesome furniture. And here is a little tour of the apartment I decorated. I have a lot of jewelry supplies and I wanted to try to use them again. I have not done jewelry in a long time, but I started working on this little necklace and this is what is looking so far. But I will continue working on this. I was very inspired by this specific necklace I saw on Pinterest and I wanted to try to recreate it with the supplies I have. Well, not exactly recreate, but I was inspired by the shape of it. I wanted the necklace to have random clusters of my beads and I had this clear acrylic beads that I wanted to use for this. I also had some chains and some different rings that I used for this. Just look at your supplies, what you have, and try to create something with them. You can also go to Pinterest for inspiration. You can always use polymer clay to make beads yourself or charms or whatever. And you could even use buttons. I was thinking of using buttons I had, but this is the piece I came up for this video specifically. But there's so many different things to do, and this would be a very creative hobby to do, and this kept me entertained for a couple of hours, so this was really fun to do. I highly recommend. You could make this very sustainable by upcycling your own jewelry that you don't wear anymore, or going to the thrift store and buying used jewelry from there and creating jewelry from those pieces of jewelry. You could buy like a bead necklace and make something new out of it. I think that would be really fun. One of the greatest hobbies, in my opinion, is learning something new. The thing I wanted to learn was to model 3D characters in Blender. I have used Blender before. As part of my graduate collection in fashion school, I actually used 3D printing, and I modeled all my 3D printed parts in Blender. So I'm not new to Blender, but I mainly used sculpting with my 3D printing collection. I wanted to learn to make better typology, so that's what I wanted to learn. And I created this silly little cat character. It has wings, it has a tail, it has a very massive eyes. It is very cartoony. I followed this specific tutorial for this cat. Obviously, I didn't make the frog that the tutorial was teaching you about, but I used the techniques that they used. And my plan for the future is to try to rig this cat and pose it and make an album cover, but let's see. If you have wanted to learn 3D design, I highly recommend Blender because it's free. There's so many tutorials online. It is honestly such a hard program to learn, but with little steps you can learn something new, and I think that would be a very fun project for you if you have a computer. But it doesn't really have to be 3D design. If you want to learn something new, then just like YouTube is full of different tutorials for different topics, and I highly recommend you looking up tutorials for the things you want to learn. But I do recommend learning Blender. It's really fun, it's really challenging, but it's also really rewarding, so I highly recommend that. And it's free if you have a computer. I really hope you liked this video. It is a bit different from what I usually do, but I will continue doing more fashion related content in the future, so stay tuned. And if you would like to see more videos from me, you can go watch these next. And I hope I will see you in my next one. Bye!